All right, let's get right into it. If you're a pre-dental student, there's one question that probably keeps you up at night. How in the world are you supposed to pay for dental school without ending up completely buried in debt? Well, the answer might not be what you expect. It actually involves a pretty unique path with the U.S. Army. Today, we're going to do a deep dive on the Health Professions Scholarship Program. You'll hear it called the HSP. So here's how we're going to break it all down for you. First, we'll talk about the $500,000 problem. Yep, you heard that right. Then we'll get into the scholarship itself and what you owe in return. We'll navigate the application process, talk about life is actually like during dental school, what your career in the Army could look like, and finally, life after service. Let's jump in.
All right, Section 1, the $500,000 problem.
This is it, right? This is the big question. You've done all the hard work. You've gotten the grades, you've aced the DAT, but now you're staring down this huge financial mountain. So how do you pay for dental school? Let's get real and talk about the numbers. Yeah, $500,000. For most schools, that's the ballpark figure you're looking at, and that is a massive amount of debt to start your career with. I mean, it can shape your entire financial future, dictating where you can live, what kind of practice you can afford to join. It really limits your options. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you could walk out of dental school with your degree and zero, absolutely zero debt? And that's where this program, the Health Professions Scholarship Program, or HPSP, enters the picture. Think of it like this. The military needs top-notch doctors and dentists. You need a way to pay for school. So they make a deal. They'll pay for your entire education, and in exchange, you agree to serve for a period of time as an officer in the Army. Okay, so what's the deal exactly? Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Section 2, the scholarship and the service. So let's break this down into the give and the get. What you get is pretty incredible. 100% of your tuition and fees are paid for, you get a monthly stipend of over $2,800 to live on, and there's even an optional $20,000 sign-on bonus. Now, for what you owe, or your give, it's 1 year of service for each year they pay for your school. You'll serve as an Army dentist after you graduate, and of course, you're committing to upholding the standards of being an Army officer. It's a major commitment, for sure, so you really need to understand both sides of this equation. Let's dig a little deeper into that financial package because it's really something. We're talking 100% tuition covered. Gone. Most of those mandatory fees that nickel and dime you, paid for. They'll even reimburse you for essential equipment, and yes, that includes your loops. On top of all that, you get that monthly stipend. We're talking over $2,800 a month, which goes up with inflation, by the way, to cover your living costs. And just to sweeten the pot, there's that optional $20,000 sign-on bonus. It's the whole shebang. Okay, so what about the payback? How does this service obligation actually work? It's pretty straightforward. The basic rule is 1 year of service for every year of scholarship. So a 4-year scholarship means a 4-year service obligation. Simple enough. But what if you want to do a residency? This is where people get confused, but it's actually not that bad. Your service time and your residency time run at the same time, concurrently. So you're basically paying off your scholarship time while you're training. The key thing to remember is this. You'll serve for whichever obligation is longer. So for example, if you have a 4-year scholarship and do a 3-year residency, you still owe 4 years in total. But if you do a 6-year oral surgery residency, well, then your total commitment becomes 6 years. You just serve out the longer of the two. All right, so you're thinking, this sounds pretty good. How do I actually get in? Let's talk about that. Section 3, navigating the application. Okay, listen up, because the timing on this is absolutely critical. You can't wait until you get into dental school to start this process. The advice from Army medical recruiters is crystal clear. The moment you submit your dental school applications, we're talking June or July, you need to be contacting an Army medical recruiter. Why? Because it takes about 45 to 60 days just to build your application packet. You want that packet ready to go, so when those acceptance letters start rolling in around December, you're ahead of the game. The selection board meets in February and you find out in March, so you've got to get the ball rolling early. So what's actually in this application packet? Well, it's pretty comprehensive. First, you've got to pass a full medical physical to make sure you're fit for service. You'll need 3 to 5 really strong letters of recommendation. Then there's the statement of motivation. We'll talk more about that in a sec. Of course, they'll need your date scores, your transcripts, and you'll go through background checks. And finally, you'll have an interview with your medical recruiter. It's your one chance to make your case. Now, about that statement of motivation, this is a huge tip, so please pay attention. Do not, I repeat, do not just copy and paste your dental school essay. The Army Selection Board is looking for something very specific. They need you to answer 3 distinct questions. Why do you want to be a dentist? Why do you want to be a leader? And critically, why do you want to be an Army officer? You have to connect all 3 of those dots. It's a completely different essay.
And you're going to want to make that statement perfect because look at this number, 80. Last year, there were over 200 applicants, all of whom had already been accepted into dental school, competing for just 80 spots. So you're not just competing against other pre-dents, you're competing against the best of the best who've already made the cut for dental school. This is an incredibly competitive scholarship. You have to bring your A game.
Okay, so let's say you do it. You put together an amazing packet, you ace the interview, and you get the scholarship. Congratulations. So now what? What is life really like during dental school as a scholar? Let's get into Section 4 and bust some myths.
Okay, this is probably the biggest myth out there, right? The second you mention a military scholarship, people imagine you getting dropped into 9 weeks of brutal basic training with a drill sergeant screaming in your face. Is that really what happens?
No, not even close. Let's look at the reality. You don't do traditional basic training. Instead, HSPC scholars attend a 6-week officer course, and you do it during one of your summer breaks. It's not about breaking you down to build you up. It's a professional, classroom-focused environment designed to teach future doctors and dentists the basics of leadership and, how to Army. Think of it more like a professional development course than boot camp. And what about the actual school year? What's your mission then? It's simple. Your number one job is to get good grades and graduate. That's it. You wear civilian clothes to class, rock those Lululemon shorts, nobody cares. You can live wherever you want, and you'll get a tax-free housing allowance called BAA to do it. You are not required to live on a military base. Your focus, 100%, is on becoming a fantastic dentist. The Army is investing in you, and they want you to succeed in school.
All right, let's fast forward 4 years. You've got your degree, you've tossed that graduation cap in the air. Now what? Let's talk about Section 5, your career in the Army.
I love this quote from Captain Theon, the Army medical recruiter. He says, "We have all the opportunity that you can handle." And when you think about it, that makes perfect sense. The Army is a massive global organization, and that means the scope of what you can do as a dentist is just huge.
So what does a day in the life look like? Well, for the most part, you're practicing your craft, usually from about 7:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. But the opportunities for growth are incredible. You get access to Army-exclusive residency programs and specializations. We're talking ortho, oral surgery. You can even get an MBA. You'll also get real leadership experience, managing technicians and entire dental detachments. Now about deployments, they are a reality, but they're pretty rare for dentists. And when they do happen, you're going as a dentist to provide care. And as for where you'll be stationed, you can state your preference, but ultimately, you serve where the Army needs you.
And finally, let's look beyond your time in uniform. What happens after you've completed your service? Section 6, Life After Service.
So, after hearing all this is the moment for a little self-reflection. Is this scholarship really for you? It's not just a free ride, it's a serious contract. So ask yourself, are you a leader, not just a dentist? Are you willing to relocate and embrace new things? Do you do well with structure and a chain of command? If you're a true homebody who has to live in one specific city, this probably isn't the right fit. You have to remember, at the end of the day, this is a legally binding commitment.
And that really brings us to the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. It's another quote from Captain Theon, and it's powerful. He said, "If it's just the money, don't do this. You're going to be taking care of me. I need you to not have any hesitations here." Look, the chance to graduate debt-free is an incredible, life-changing opportunity. But this commitment has to be about more than the money. It's about service, it's about leadership, and it's about taking care of America's sons and daughters. So the final question you have to ask yourself isn't just, do I want to be a dentist? It's, am I ready for that mission?